Okay. So in this chapter, we will be discussing the group structure. Paano ba nabubuo ang isang grupo? Okay? So halimbawa, no, merong isang aksidente na nangyari sa isang grupo ng mga manlalaro. Sa nasa eroplano sila. Tapos nung nagkaproblema itong eroplano, bumagsak. Merong mga tao doon na napahamak. Siyempre, yung iba namatay, yung iba naman, nabuhay. So eventually, itong mga grupo na to, naghati-hati sila. Okay? So meron mga magkakagrupo na magkakilala, o kaya naman merong grupo na sila-sila lang ang sila-sila lang ang magkakasama. Okay? So kung kayo, yung halimbawa yung nasa sitwasyon na ito, kanino kayo sasama? Ayan. Doon ba sa mga malalakas? Doon ba sa mayroong impluensya? Doon ba sa mayroong daladalang mga baon? O doon ba sa may daladalang pagkain? So meron tayong mga priorities kung kanino tayo sasama. Ayan. Diyan minsan nabubuo ang grupo. Kaya ngayon, halimbawa, nung bago kayo sa classroom o bago kayo sa isang lugar, sino unang ninyong lalapitan? Yung mukha bang mabait? Yung mukha bang matapang? Yung mukha bang ipagtatanggol ka? Okay. So these are the things that we consider in order for us to build a group. Okay, so we try to consider what are the characteristics of these individuals, what are the characteristics of the members of the group. So just like in the example that we have, so this is a real story of survivors of the Andes mountain. So this was in Chile and Uruguay. So way back in 1974. All right. So there are some survivors in this tragedy, and of course, what they did is they have to secure their food, and there are some time in this tragedy that they have to look for some food. Okay? So kung nandun sila sa sitwasyon na yun, hindi naman nila pwedeng kainin yung mga natitirang mga natitirang upuan. Hindi naman sila pwedeng kumain ng mga foam ng upuan. Hindi naman nila pwedeng kainin yung mga sapatos nila. Hindi naman nila pwedeng kainin yung mga gamit na hindi naman natutunaw. Okay? So what they did is they have to survive these days of this tragedy. No? Nasa bundok sila, puro niebe. Ano gagawin nila doon? Okay? So then eventually, if you want to see the movie, it is link right here, the documentary of these survivors. Anong ginawa nila, mga strategies, ano mga ginawa nilang pamamaraan para sila ay mabuhay. Okay? Pero halimbawa kayo, tatanungin ko kayo, kung kayo nasa ganung sitwasyon, ano ang gagawin ninyo? Kanino kayo sasama? Okay. So let's proceed with some terms in structure. We have group structure. So this is based on the term, the complex of roles. Ayan. Sino ba yung mga member ng grupo natin? Ano ba ang kakayanan nila? Ano ba ang pwede nilang iambag sa grupo natin? What is the norms and inter-member relations that organizes the group? So there are times, of course, in a group we have to depend on the skills, the abilities, and other characteristics that might, give value to our group. Let's say, for example, we try to join those individuals who look competent, or those individuals who are very close to us. So these are some qualifications that we may consider in order for us to join a group. Okay. Right. So in business, let's say, for example, dominant coalition can control the organization, yet it works outside the bounds of the formal group structure. We also have, rather than joining formally organized groups, individuals may be spending more time with informal groups such as their friends. Diba? Mas gusto natin yung kakilala talaga natin, yung komportable tayong kausap, yung komportable tayo kung ano ba yung pwede nating iambag, ano ba yung pwede nating sabihin. Kasi there are times when we are in a formal group, we tend to not to speak. Okay, we tend not to express our thoughts and feelings because there are some limitations with the relationship that we have. So there are times that we talk to our friends. So these are informal groups, our co-workers, let's say for example, and acquaintances. So these social groups are the ubiquitous dark matter of social capital. Okay? So we try to invest in these relationships that we have with our friends, with our family members. So these are informal groups. So we also have prescriptive norm. Prescriptive norm. So prescriptive norm, it is a consensual standard that identifies preferable, possibly sanctioned um, behavior, set the standards for expected behavior. So what should be done? Okay, so let's say, for example, you are in that situation. So, what are the things that you are supposed to do in that kind of situation that you have to survive this tragedy? Okay, wala kang makain, wala supply. Okay, meron supply, pero naubusan na. Ano ang tamang gawin mo para kayo ay makasurvive that night? Let's say, for example. And we also have prescriptive norm. So prescriptive norm, it is a consensual standard that identifies prohibited, negatively sanctioned behaviors, identify behaviors that should not be performed. So there are some norms outside a group that's supposed to control what is or what are the things that should not be done. So these are the prescriptive norm. Okay, halimbawa, bawal kang pumatay ng kapwa-tao, kaya bawal mong kainin yung hindi dapat kainin. Okay, pero in that kind of tragedy na wala ka lang makain, so anong kakainin mo ngayon? Okay, so the prescriptive norm has something to do with the norm or negatively sanctioned behavior. Okay, so identify behaviors that should not be performed. You are not supposed to eat the body parts of those dead individuals, gaya nung, spoiler, gaya nung nandun sa documentary. Okay? So, yun yung prescriptive norm. And what we have to do is this prescriptive norm naman. So, what could be the standards for the expected behavior that should be done? So, you have to survive that night, and then eventually you have to gauge. Yan. Ano ba yung behavior na dapat mong exhibit that time? So you have to lead. Okay? We also have descriptive norm. So descriptive norm is a consensual standard that describes how people typically act, feel, and think in a given situation. So let's say, for example, we are not supposed to eat the dead bodies of the loved ones or dead bodies of our teammates, the dead bodies of people that are supposed to be close to us, okay? But they are dead already. But the time that you are there in that situation, so all you have to do is to think of ways that you have that you think that you can survive. Okay? So hindi ka naman pwedeng kumain ng ng materials that cannot be digested by your body. Okay? So typically you have this standard actions, feelings that is expected of you. So these are descriptive norm. We also have injunctive norm. When we talk about the injunctive norm, so an evaluative consensual standard that describes how people should act, feel, and think in a given situation rather than how people do act, feel, and think in that situation. Okay. So we also have informal norm and implicit norm. So again, informal norm describe the unwritten rules of the conduct in the group, and implicit norm often so taken for granted that members follow them automatically. Okay, so in a, let's say for example, you are in a industrial setting. So there are times that there are informal norm and implicit norm that could be observed in a group. Okay, so there are times that you might observe your office mates that it is natural, that it is typical for them to talk about the procedures, to talk about the processes of the work, or talk about some individuals involved in a procedure. So there are some unwritten rules that could be observed among the members. Of course, we also have the implicit norm. So these are the things that are taken for granted that members follow them automatically. All right. So self-generating norm, so it emerged as members reach a consensus through reciprocal influence. Okay. Let's say, for example, in a government setting, there are times that you can observe that a client might give something to the officer, or sorry, there are some normal transactions between these client and the officer, or the someone coming from the government agency. Okay, so there are some emergence of these members or reach consensus through reciprocal influence by the time that a client might give something to that to that officer in favor of the client's request. Let's say, for example, we also have a stable norm. So once they develop resistance to change and pass from current members to new members. Okay, so these are the norms or the standard activities or standard procedures that we have to follow when we are new in a, let's say, for example, in a work setting. All right. So we also have role differentiation. So when we talk about the role differentiation, we have an increase in the number of roles in a group. So accompanied by the gradual decrease in the scope of these roles as each one becomes more narrowly defined and specialized. Okay. So in a office, let's say, for example, there are several employees that might be specializing to some task or some outputs that should be done or that should be submitted at the end of the month. Okay, so we tend to differentiate. Ano ba ang gagawin ko sa grupo na ito? Ano ba ang malinaw na description ko? Ano ba yung dapat kong maiambag sa grupo na ito? Now, this can be explained by the role differentiation, or in a research topic. Let's say, for example, you are assigned to submit for the chapter 1, or the other member should be submitting for the chapter 2, so on and so forth. So this is what we call the role differentiation. So you're trying to be specialized in that task. Okay. So we also have task role. So task role, again, is any position in a group occupied by a member who performs behaviors that promote completion of the task. So you are focusing on what would be the output, what would be your task in a group, and activities such as initiating structure, providing task-related feedback. Okay. So there are times that there are members in a group that could possibly be giving some task to really divide what should be submitted for the subject or for the course. Okay? So setting goals sometimes is very important in task role. Now we also have relationship goals. So aside from the task that we have, that what should be done, we also have relationships. Now any position in a group occupied by a member who performs behaviors that improve the nature and quality of interpersonal relations. Now you can see, or you can observe with your groups, let's say, for example, that there are individuals who might effort, or might give effort, or might invest their time to really build a good relationship among individuals inside that group, in order for them to have a advantage in terms of other groups that might be in conflict. Okay, so that is a good strategy for a member to really have a good interpersonal relationship among members. So such as showing concern for the feeling. So you would ask your classmate kung ano yung nararamdaman niya for that particular task, okay lang ba siya, meron bang siyang opinion or additional input for the task. Okay, we also have enhancing feelings of satisfaction and trust in a group. Now, it is very important for us to submit a output or in uh, group activity or okay, but it is likely that some members of the group have conflict to one another. So we have discussed it in the previous chapter that there are times that a member might be in conflict with other members. Now, relationship role is a very good strategy in terms of building interpersonal relationships so that you can really submit the output while having a good interpersonal responses to one another. Now we have different task relationship roles. We have initiator or the contributor. So a task role which recommend novel ideas about the problem. So this one has something to do with giving new ways or approach to the problem or possible solutions that not yet considered. Okay. So we also have information seeker. They are the ones who would ask or emphasizing the facts by calling for background information from others. So they typically ask a lot of questions. So opinion seeker, there are individuals task role which ask for more qualitative types of data such as the attitudes, values, and feelings. Okay, so they would ask, anong opinion ninyo tungkol sa ano na to, sa task na ito? O kaya anong opinion ninyo? Ano yung nararamdaman ninyo sa ibinibigay ko sa inyong task? We also have yeah, elaborator, coordinator. So elaborator is someone who gives additional information, examples, rephrasing. So it is very good for a member to really giving some example to have a light or good implication for that output. So these are elaborators. We also have coordinators, a task role which shows the relevance of each idea and its relationship to overall problem. So that is a coordinator. We also have orienters, a task role which focuses discussion on the topic whenever necessary. So there are instances that the group might be distracted by several factors not related to the topic. So this orienter, they try to refocus these members of the group. We also have the critics or what we call the evaluator. So it is a task role which appraises the quality of groups' methods, logic, and results. So these are very good guys who would guide you to some extent of the methods that you are using or the procedures that you are trying to implement in a group. Okay. Now we also have Energizer, the ones who stimulate the group to continue working when discussion lags or somewhat boring na yung interaction or somewhat boring na yung procedures. No? So they try to energize you, they try to entertain you. We also have procedural technicians, so a task group which cares for the operations. We also have the materials, the machineries, and so on. So they would give you some technical supports for this one. We also have the recorders at TASCO which take notes and maintains records. Okay, so they likely act as the secretary of the group. We also have the encourager and harmonizer. So encourager rewards others through agreement, warmth, and praise. Okay, so what can you identify as your role in a group? So can you still reflect on what could be your instances or what could be your behavior in a group? We also have harmonizers. So these individuals try to mediate the conflict among group members. Let's say, for example, again, in a storming stage, there are times that there are conflicts. So these are the mediators, or what we call the harmonizer of the group. Okay, we also have the compromiser. So compromiser shifts his or her own position on an issue in order to reduce conflict in the group. So they go in the middle in order for to avoid any further conflict. So we also have a gatekeeper. So a role which smooths communication by setting up procedures and ensuring equal participation from members. So they would point out sino ang gumagawa, sino ang hindi gumagawa. So they are likely recording some of the uh, contribution of the group. So to ensure the equal participation of the members. We also have the standard setter. So these individuals try to express or call the discussion of standards for evaluating the quality of the group process. Now we also have the commentator. So they try to point out the positive or the negative aspect of the group's dynamics and calls for change if necessary. And we also have the follower. Okay, so they accept the ideas or whatsoever what the other group members try to suggest. So they're just following the flow of the group. So they are just serving as the audience for the group. So can you identify yourself as a follower? Just follow what should be given to you. So we also have aggressor. So individuals rule which expresses disapproval, acts, ideas, feelings, and others attacks the group. So this could complicate the relationships or the task. So they would attack really the idea or the feelings of other members. So these are aggressors. So you could simply so you could simply observe them by means of their behavior that could manifest during the time of conflict. So they try to attack in terms of emotion, psychological, or sometimes um, the beliefs of the other members. We also have blocker. So they try to be negativistic. Unlike aggressor, they try to oppose the group unnecessarily or try to influence others in a group, or resist the group's influence. So they try to block whatever they suggest or whatever the group suggests. So they are trying to block the influence of the group members. We also have dominators. So dominators, individual role which asserts authority and superiority. So even you are not the leader, you are not assigned to give assignments to your group mates. So you likely dominate even the leader of the group. Okay, so you try to manipulate whatever the procedures, you're trying to manipulate whatever your leader is suggesting. Okay, so you're trying to dominate the game, you're trying to dominate the group procedures or the group flow, process flow. We also have the invader. From the word itself, invader, individual role which expresses personal interest, feelings, and opinions unrelated to group goals. We also have help seeker, individuals who expresses insecurity, confusion, and self-deprecation. Okay, we also have recognition seeker, so an individual which calls attention to himself or herself, so self-aggrandizing. Okay, we also have playboy or girl, so individual who which are involved in the group. Okay, so they likely play around, so they likely are cynical and nonchalant. So special interest leader, so these individuals tend to remain apart from the group by acting as representative of another social group or category. Okay, so they likely represent another group to that could likely be different from the original group form. Okay? Now, we also have group socialization. So, ano ba ang ibig sabihin ng group socialization? It is a pattern of change in the relationship between an individual and group that begins when an individual first considers joining the group and ends when he or she lives in. Okay, so group socialization explains how an individual tend to socialize in a group, and then eventually he or she will live it, and then it is because of some interest or some values that may not already fit with the group. So which is why he or she is departing from that group. Now we also have role ambiguity. So from the word itself, so your role might be ambiguous or a lack of consensus within group regarding the behaviors associated with the role. So you don't know already what could be your role. So you don't know if you would be the leader or you would be the one to resolve this issue or not. Okay, so you try to have this, you're having this confusion or ambiguity whether or you have this uncertainty with regard to the types of behavior expected by others. Okay. Now we also have role conflict. So unlike ambiguity, the role conflict has something to do with the tension, distress, or uncertainty caused by inconsistent and or discordant expectations associated with one's role in the group. So you know already what you have to do. However, it brings you distress because of the inconsistencies and expectations coming from the process or coming from the superior that you have or the members that you have. Now we also have inter-role conflict. So it is a conflict that occurs when individuals okay, so occupy multiple roles within a group and expectations and behaviors associated with one of their roles. Okay, so this is likely explained by how individuals' expectations or others' expectations and behaviors associated with another of their roles. So let's say, for example, you have a dual uh, work or you have two work. So in morning, you are a student or by evening, you are a working um, individual. So likely you have this inter-role conflict from the time that you have this you have to compromise with the schedule given to you by morning, and then eventually you feel exhausted because of the energy consumed by the time that you were working at night. Okay. So we also have intra-role conflict, so a form of role conflict that occurs when behaviors that make up a single role are incongruous, so often resulting from inconsistent expectations on the part of the person who occupies the role and other members of the group. Now we also have role fit, so the degree of congruence between the demands of a specific role. So you know that your attitudes, your beliefs, your skills and abilities and other characteristics of of you, it really fits that role that you are occupying. So you feel that you are a fit for this role. Now, we also have a social network analysis or SNA. So it is a set of analysis procedures used to describe the structure through graphic representation and through mathematical procedures that quantify these structures. So this is an example of an SNA. So possibly that there is a group A, group B, and how they interact to one another. So as you can see right here, so there are several groups and the individuals who are performing inside a group. Now we also have density. So density is a degree of connectedness of a group's members as indexed by number of actual ties linking members divided by the number of possible ties. So as you can see right here, there are some ties within a group, and then you would notice the density among an individual or among members or among the members who would interact with one another. Okay, so we also have degree of centrality, the number of ties between group members, the group's degree centrality as the average is the average of direct connections among group members. We also have out degree and in degree. So out degree for a non-symmetric data, the number of ties initiated by the individual. So on the other hand, we have integrity or non-symmetric data, the number of ties received by the individual. We also have betweenness. So betweenness is something to do with the degree to which a group member's position in the network is located along path between other pairs of individuals in the network. So supposing that you are that individuals, you are in the middle of that network. We also have closeness. So closeness explains how the distance in terms of ties of an individual from all other the network. Okay. So this is how the groups of individuals in the previous example being grouped. Okay. So the chain of command in the Andes group before the avalanche, they killed the team captain. The survivors' authority structure was based on the rugby team's structure and seniority. So gaya na nabanggit natin kanina, sino ba ang sasamahan natin? Sino ba ang tingin natin magiging leader natin? So, gaya nung nangyari dun sa grupo ng survivors, ang nangyari sa kanila, pinili nila syempre kung sino yung yung kanilang leader, no? O yung senior nila. Okay, but after the avalanche, the group became organized in a hierarchical or centralized authority structure based on kinship. Sino yung pinaka-close mo, sino yung pinaka-kilala mo. Yan. So, you, in terms of levels of personal level, no? So you would know that you are confident or you are confident to be with this person because he or she might not betray you. Okay. So, yan. Minsan, no? Tingnan muna natin kung sino yung sasamahan natin. Sasama mamaya, yan. Dahil gutom siya, makakainin mo ba? Okay, so you also have status differentiation. So the gradual rise of group members to positions of greater authority accompanied by decreases in the authority exercised by other members. So we try to categorize in terms of the status or the power or the strength or who's the weak in the group. Now we also have the pecking orders. It is a stable ordered pattern of individual variations in prestige. Okay, so status and authority among group members. Okay. Now we also have expectation states theory. So this is an explanation of status differentiation. So in terms of a group which assumes the group members allocate status to group members judged to be competent at the task. So minsan, pinipili tayo ng kagrupo natin because of the expectation, because of the biases, because of the prejudgment that they have that you can do it. Okay, so you are competent, which is why you are being expected by your member or by your leader to really accomplish this by the time na magpapasahan na, let's say, for example. So who have qualities that members think are indicators of competence and potential. Okay, halimbawa sa Squid Game, no? Pinili halimbawa ng leader kung sino yung isasama niya sa tug of war. So syempre, tug of war yun. Kailangan, ang titignan niya, sino yung pinakamukhang malakas, sino yung mukhang lalaki, sino yung mukhang kaya maghila ng tug of war na yun. So you are expected, that person expected to really participate in the group because of the strength that they need. Alright? So you are, this can be explained by expectation states theory. So just like in any other cases, there are times that our parents or there are times that our teacher are expecting something about us because of previous performances that we have exhibited or shown in a classroom setting or in other context. Okay, we also have a specific status characteristic from the word itself. So in status characteristics theory, task-specific behavioral and personal characteristics that people consider when estimating the relative competency, ability, and social value of themselves and others. Okay? Now we also have diffuse status characteristics. So in status characteristics theory, so general personal qualities such as your age, okay? We also consider your race and ethnicity that people consider when estimating the relative competency. Okay, so you would know if that person is competent based on the age, okay? So in terms of its ethnicity, so it is explained by diffuse status characteristic. We also have status generalization. So the tendency for individuals to know, to have achieved or been ascribed authority, respect, and prestige. For example, a celebrity who exercises influence in a group, even though this diffuse status characteristic is not relevant in the current group context. We also have solo status. Now, solo status is state of being the only group member who is representative of a specific social category in an or otherwise homogeneous group. So, for example, a man in an otherwise all female group. So, you are a representative of a male of the males among a female group. So we also have attraction networks of patterns of liking or disliking or acceptance or rejection and inclusion or exclusion among members of the group. We also have sociometric differentiation. When we talk about sociometric differentiation, it is the development of stronger and more positive interpersonal ties between some members of the group. Okay? So by the time that you are inside a task or you are inside a group, there are times that you would talk more specific to this individual, or you would interact to this individual, or you are less likely to talk to this individual who is not competent enough to contribute for a group. So this can be drawn in a sociometric differentiation. So accompanied by decreases in the quality of relations between other members of the group. So it would determine if you have a strong relationship with these individuals or groups or group of individuals. Okay. So we also have balance theory. So Heather believed that unbalanced relationships create an unpleasant tension, so that must be relieved by changing some elements in the system. So likely, Heather suggests that interpersonal relationships can be either balanced, so it is integrated units with elements that fit together without stress, okay? Or unbalanced, inconsistent units with elements conflict with one another. Balance theory suggests that there are some values, there are some characteristics that might be considered in order for us to have a good interpersonal interactions or have a balance inside the group based on these characteristics that we are supposed to have in common. Okay, so we also have communication networks. So it is a pattern of information transmission and exchange that describe who communicates most frequently and what extent with whom. Okay. So just like in the previous uh, methodologies, this one try to pattern the networks that we have or how we are likely to communicate with other group members. Okay, so the symbol, okay, let's say for example, we have these members of the group who would likely inclined with yeah, with the task orientation as well as the friendly behavior versus unfriendly behavior and opposing and accepting task orientation. So individuals who would emerge in terms of friendly and accepting orientation, as you can see right here, would emerge mostly here at the upper right corner. And those individuals who would emerge at the unfriendly and accepting task orientation would emerge in the upper left side corner. And at the lower left side corner, we have the opposing task and unfriendly behavior. So ayaw nila totally makipag-participate and likely they don't have this friendly stance or friendly vibes with the group members. Okay, and At the, what do you call this, lower right corner, we have the friendly and opposing task orientation. So they like to be with these individuals, be part of this group, but they are trying to oppose with the task that they are assigned to. All right. So for the next chapter, we will be discussing it in the next video. We will see you next the next one.